Good morning, everyone. This is Robin Eschler with Women of Passion and Legacy, where we spotlight women who've recognized their personal and unique drive to have purpose, to take that one step at a time and make a difference in life, whether it's just locally, nationally, in your community, or maybe even internationally. These women, just like you, have their own fears, have their own challenges in life. They push through all of that to accomplish that one day at a time and to progress toward their dream. They have become the women of passion and legacy. And Hutchings is absolutely one of those women. She is a force of nature, and I am so pleased to introduce her to you. She calls herself the energy architect. And she actually lives in New Zealand and is a veteran business coach who maps and harnesses and utilizes energy to maximize the performance of her clients, both personal and professional clients, by the way. And she's always approached life with that intention, with that tenacity, with that zest for living life and to live one day at a time to progress towards your dream and her dream in particular. So, Heather, I want to welcome you. Thank you for joining me. I really am pleased to have you here.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you for having me. It's so good to be with you and share some of our journey. It's
Yeah,
a great way for women to spread what we know and
I
share ourselves out.
I agree. I agree. I had that short conversation with you. I don't know, it was a week or two ago. And ever since, I've really been looking forward to just having the opportunity to chat with you here. You're a force of nature, and what a perfect name of the energy architect. Where did you come up with that?
A client called me that one day. We were talking, and he said, "Oh, you're the typical energy architect." And I went, "Oh, I quite like that name." Right? I'm going to swipe and deploy that. Don't charge me. I'm using it. So thanks to a client.
Well, you ought to trademark it, I think. It's a great name. It's a great name. I also have a question for you. For those of you who are listening, you may notice that Heather has a wonderful New Zealand accent. It's because she's in New Zealand, and it just so happens that where she lives is one day ahead of us. So, Heather, I want to ask you, could you please share with the rest of us here in the United States what's going to happen tomorrow?
Wouldn't that be good? Wouldn't it be nice to know what the lotto ticket is? Or
That would be great to be able to
wouldn't
dial
it?
that in with you, just check in with you every morning and say, okay, Heather, what's going to happen today so I can be prepared?
I'd be a bit scared doing that with me around and never know what might come out.
I suspect that's true. So I want to get kind of more into some of the information that you sent me. And the one thing that really jumped out at me, and I thought, what a great exercise to go through. You actually at least it looks like you went through every decade of your life and you picked out something that stood out for you, that made a difference in your life and kind of led you to where you are here today. So how did you what occurred to you to have you go through that exercise? Or is that something that you normally take your clients through?
No, it was suggested to me by one of my coaches, actually. It was Matt Church. And he suggested that everybody do a timeline of their life and just see what pops up every decade and to see, where we started and where we are now. And for me, the most amazing thing was even from 1 to 10, leadership was popping up. But of course, I didn't even think about it till you start writing it down. 1 to 10, 11 to 20, all of that. And you go, really? So you get really involved in what you did in each decade. And out of that, you suddenly realize now I see the journey. Now I know why I'm here doing what I do. But if I hadn't have done that, it would just have been, that's my past. That's what I did. But by doing that time life, they call it time life therapy or timeline therapy. It was amazing for me. And of course, what popped out is where I am today, and I could see that journey right from being 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah, and I think that you hit a certain point in life, at least for me, where you start looking back and going, am I here? What got me here?
Yeah.
And I think this is such an elegant way to figure it out. I often refer to the whys in the road. Like I
Yes.
remember back in my 20s when I was in college, I had a choice. I was very fortunate. I had a choice of going to either Paris or Africa, having to do with my studies at the time. I was in science and interested in wildlife management and ecology, but I'd always studied art. I had that kind of as a vocation. And I ended up going to Paris. And I've often wondered what would have happened if I'd gone down that other road to Africa. Have you ever looked at that in going through this timeline therapy? What would have happened if you'd taken a different road?
Mm,
Or do
mm.
you say
Uh,
they all got you here no matter what?
I think they would have all brought me on this journey to where I am now, no matter where I had been, because that's just who I am or who you are. And so it wouldn't have really mattered what I had been doing, whichever fork I went on to. I think I still would have ended up here where I am now. It just would have might have taken a bit longer to get where I am, or perhaps it might have been a bit shorter. But I think I would have
Yeah,
ended up here anyway.
yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And ultimately, even looked at that why in the road and figured, in some ways, maybe it wouldn't have mattered. Maybe I would have gotten, yeah.
Mm,
So early on
mm.
in your life, you mentioned that you led a marching team. Tell me more about that.
Okay. So after the Second World War, a lot of our men came back from war, and they were sort of military driven. They were so used to being, I guess, in the military. And then these marching teams popped up in New Zealand and Australia. And most of them we were all coached by ex-military men, I suppose. So there were a team of 11 girls, and we went through a complete couple of routines. And and I was the leader of that team at age 8. There was 11 of us in the team, I think, and it was we would compete against each other. Was about 30 teams in New Zealand and probably more in Australia, and we would have these big displays and big competitions, and it was good for us because at that age it taught us to work as a team.
Yeah, yeah, really, really. I mean, that is so true because you've got to coordinate what everybody's doing, and not
Yeah,
only that, it's a lot of fun. I would imagine that you had a lot of fun.
we did, and we would meet girls from and all around New Zealand, and then of course when we travelled all around Australia. But we had a
Oh,
common
wow.
interest, and although we were competing, we still all got dressed up in our uniforms, uh, and but we just made so many friends, and some of those girls are still friends today. What is that? 60 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were you playing instruments or
No,
twirling baton?
no, no, no.
Or,
Just straight marching, doing a display, memorizing these beautiful moves, and it was just really a display of movement to either a brass band or a pipe band. So
yeah.
it was a
Wow.
marching, yeah, but we were marching, but it was movement, it was flow, it was beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah.
I bet. What a great experience. And then you
Mm.
think about you go a little bit earlier in your childhood, to your childhood, I should say. And you were a head librarian back in school, is that correct?
Yeah, so I'm a librarian, but that's what I did when I sort of left school. And books have always been part of my life. And so I think I was 15 and I applied for this job in the library, and I worked my way up the ranks as you do, went to university, and became a qualified librarian. So I was running the library in my community, in my region, at the age of 21. So once again, here was the leadership coming out. I had staff that I was responsible for. I had budgets, of course, having to report to council that I was responsible for. So all of that was part of leadership. That was just another big learning for me.
And how old were you at that point?
I was 20. So I left school at 15 to do my library, to get my degree in library, yeah. And so
Wow.
I was 21 when I was made the head librarian of that library in particular. So
Wow.
books are still very much. I'm not allowed near a bookshop because I walk past and my husband says, "Mate, keep walking," because you put me in a bookshop and I'm there, or a library. 5 hours later and I'm still there. So
Yeah,
if he wants to get a book, he drops me
just
off at the library.
yesterday, just yesterday, I was talking with my sister about downsizing, because we hit a certain age where we have to start getting rid of stuff.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
we were talking about books, and she was talking about how she'd gotten rid of so many books. And I looked at her and I said, "Oh my God, I could never get rid of my books. I love my books. I have, I said, I might, if I really worked hard at it, I might be able to get rid of an eighth to a quarter of my books. The rest of them are they're like treasures to me, just the books. I mean, I've got books behind me. Got on Walden Pond, one of the old issues. And then I've got another one that my mother gave to my dad in 1943. Oh, that's the one that's on Walden Pond. What's this one? This is the works of Emerson. And it goes everything from, older hardbacks up to recent paperback books.
Yeah,
I
I'm the
love them.
same.
I
Yeah,
love
I'm the
them.
same. And they're all sitting on the bookshelf with the spines, all the white ones are together and all the blue ones are together. No, there's not being very librarianish at all, because the subject's not together. It's the color of the spines that are all together.
Funny. That's funny. And then when you were a mother, you were an early mother in your 20s.
Yes.
Um, Now, explain to me this, because honestly, I wasn't aware of was there a bomb on an oil rig, or what was it that you were referring to?
Oh, so that no, they discovered oil in New Zealand, and so a lot of the
Oh,
and gas in New Zealand. So a lot of the young husbands went off to work on the oil rigs, and of course that left mums and babies and children at home. So at that stage, I was the play centre supervisor. So play centre is a little bit like kindergarten, I suppose. And so it was looking after the mothers, and they became very good at changing light bulbs and all of those sorts of things, that climbing ladders and cleaning roofs and windows and all of those sorts of things. They became super independent. So when the husbands came home every sort of 4 weeks and then wanted to take over, we had a bit of a conflict going on, because the girls had become so self-sufficient, because
ah,
that yeah. So that was
interesting.
it was just working their way through, how do we manage this sort of dynamics going on in our families at the moment. So that was interesting as well. But that was because I was the supervisor of the play centre. So I guess there would have been about 40 children at that play centre, and their mums that
Wow.
I looked after and played with, and it was all education, and it was fun. It was
Yeah.
fun.
And then you became a GST auditor. Now, I'm not familiar with the acronym GST. What is that?
So GST is goods and services tax in New Zealand. So that's where at that stage, I think it was 10% on every product that we purchased. There was a 10% tax, which the companies collected, and we all paid. So that was GST, and that was it's a form of tax with the Inland Revenue Department. And I was one of the auditors. I started, and the only reason why I got the job, I hate figures, really hate figures. I was working for my husband and his business. I said, "Oh, I think I'll apply for that." And he says, "Don't be silly, you won't get it." And I went, "Oh, all right." So I applied for it and got the job.
Of
Still
course.
hate figures.
Just fighting.
Yeah. So
They all
so
love
I
you.
was, and I guess that's where my love for business came out, because we were working with businesses. We were helping businesses get their books and their systems ready to be involved in this 10% tax. And so I was out for 2 years just talking and helping businesses. And that's where that love for business just emerged for me. Even though my husband owned a business, it wasn't for me, it was just a business. But it was once I started working with other businesses around New Zealand, it was, wow, I like this. I didn't like the figures, hated the figures.
Yeah. And then you got
Yeah.
in it. Well, that's actually inspiring because a lot of people, and I think a lot of women our age and even younger, have this fear of numbers and that they don't think they're capable of doing it. And here you had that fear, and yet you went out and you became an auditor. I mean, that really does take guts.
Yeah. So I think sometimes, it's that old story, feel the fear and do it anyway. Because if you don't, that fear is going to hold you back. And I thought, well, here we go. You either do or you don't. I'll either fail or I'll make it, which has been the way I probably operate most of my life was, okay, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, you
Mm.
dive in the deep end and you go for
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then it wasn't really until you were in your 60s that you went into well, actually there was I'm skipping over something between that point of being the auditor and in your 60s you were very active in the Chamber of Commerce. Tell us a little bit
Yes.
about that.
Still very active in the Chamber of Commerce. It's very much, once again, it's about business. It's about supporting business. It's also about helping me with my relationship building, and getting out and meeting people. It's helping businesses grow by running courses, workshops, talking to local authorities, advocating for them if they are having problems with their councils. And so I've been part of the Chamber of Commerce now for 20 plus years, I suppose. And I've actually been the chair of our local Chamber of Commerce for 7 years, and the chair of another Chamber of Commerce just up the road. They were running into strife, so I looked after them for 2 years. So it's just all about supporting and growing business and getting out and building relationships. I don't like using the word networking. I'm very visual, and I have this wonderful visual of all of us going out. When people say we're going networking, I go, oh, okay. I'm throwing a net over everybody and then working hard to pull them all in. I don't deal with that very
Yeah.
well. So I call it relationship building. And that's what the
Well, and
Chamber of
that's,
Commerce is.
yeah, that's what it is. And in fact, that actually reminds me that it's I need to get out to the our local Chamber of Commerce and offer to do some kind of a talk for them,
Yes,
um,
yes.
working with businesses. Yeah,
Yeah. If you're in
yeah,
business and if you're running your own business, the Chamber of Commerce needs to know about you. They need to hear about you because they're always looking for people to run workshops. What can you offer our members? Because our members range from young startup businesses to people who've been in business or big companies. So there's a full
yeah,
range. So they need you. If you're a woman in business, or a man in business, get to the Chamber of Commerce. They need you.
yeah. And I think it's good, especially now. We're kind of shifting gears here a little bit, but women in business. And it's really important for women to be willing to get out there and
Mm.
present themselves in such a way that they're not, what is the word I want to say? You're not emulating a man. You're taking full responsibility as a woman and for the qualities that you bring to the table as a woman in business
Mm.
rather than trying to be a man in business. What do you think about that? I mean, that's not very well stated, but
Look, you're absolutely right. We speak a different language. Let's face it. We
yeah,
probably lead more from the heart than the head. I think we probably listen more, and so we learn quite a lot just by listening and watching and understanding people's body movements. It's just I think as a woman we have a greater impact because of the way we listen, we watch. Our language even is totally different. We're non-threatening. And so I think we do have a greater impact out there in the community.
so when you are coaching businesses, which is what you do now, and we'll get into that more, but when you're coaching, do you coach men and women identically the same, or do you shift a little bit, or how do you adjust for that?
Yeah, I do shift a little bit. It's always interesting when you are coaching a husband and wife team. Um,
Ah,
yeah, that can make life really interesting. So you do those shifts. and you just have to really watch and listen to what's going, the dynamics that are happening. But the people say to me, "How can you coach so many different businesses?" Business doesn't change. Business is the same for everyone. It's just the product that changes. And so, depending on what they're selling, the services or the product, and it's just around watching and listening to what they're saying to me, and then we unpack it so that they can get clarity around where they want to take their business. A coach doesn't give you any answers. A coach just asks lots of questions.
Yeah, that's so true.
Mm.
So from there, speaking of different industries, you actually got involved with hospitality and tourism. Is that what your
Yes.
husband's business is, or?
No. Gary is a jeweler by trade. He's
Oh,
yeah. So I mean, I got sacked from the jewelry shop so many times, but it was all right. We don't work very well together. So we sold our jewelry shop in New Zealand and we moved to Australia, and we had a resort there for 4 years, I suppose. In Noosa, Australia, we had 76 units we looked after, and so that then led into hospitality, a whole different way of life for us. So
yeah.
then I picked up the skills which enabled me to coach another industry, because you can never take people further than where you've been yourself. So I now have the skills and understand how hospitality works, as well as retail and the service industries, because I've been involved in all of those with our own businesses.
I like that, what you just said. In fact, I'm writing it down, that you never can take people further than where you've been yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's interesting. Um,
Mm.
and we don't always think of it in those terms, that our experience, our unique experience in life really is what makes us valuable, because there is such a plethora of different people out there, and everybody relates differently to certain circumstances, and that as a coach, it's important to really be able to find your tribe, so to speak, the people that really resonate with the way that you see life, and that is all part of where you've been in life, as to where how you relate to others.
That's exactly right. That is
Answer.
so right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how can people, how can our tribe out there trust us if we've never been on that journey? How can they trust us to take them
Yeah,
and
that's true too.
care for them? And yeah, if we haven't done it, they have to be able to trust us. I mean, if we've never been there, or we don't understand what it's like to almost be bankrupt or not have any money, or the ups and downs of being in business and being tired, if we haven't been there, how can we support them and be of service to them if we really don't understand what they're talking about?
Yeah, so true. So true. And then while you were in Australia too, you met Ken Blanchard. And for those of you who that name doesn't really all of a sudden ring a bell, he's the one who wrote the book, The 1 Minute Manager.
Yes.
And he
Yep.
has an international consulting firm, that you got involved with, right, Heather? How
Yes.
did
Yes.
that all?
Yes. Well, I'd read The 1 Minute Manager and all the other books of Ken Blanchard, and when we came back to New Zealand, an opportunity arose to work and be part of his team in New Zealand. And so, and I still use Ken's way of coaching and his methods of team building. I still use them. So I spent 4 years working as part of the New Zealand team, under the Ken Blanchard umbrella, and just learned. So it was a bit like being a consultant for him, and just learned so much because he is such an amazing man. And as I said, I still use him. I still give his books to clients. At Christmas time, if they're a first year client, they'll get a book, The 1 Minute Manager, or what's the one with the get the monkey off your shoulder, the retail one. So
Yeah.
I still give those books to clients. So he's really worth looking into, if you're interested
Yeah.
in leadership and magic
Well,
way he operates.
and he happens to be in my backyard. He's down in San Diego, California, it turns out. I didn't know that until I was looking into this a little bit more. But he calls himself, I find this really interesting. He calls himself the chief spiritual officer for his company. So curious about that. Um, that really kind of made me sit back and go, wow, this is a really interesting man. I mean,
Mm.
what's he like when you met him? Was he very spiritual, or how do you guess that he came up with that term? And I don't think he called himself that back when you met him. Is that
No,
correct, or did he?
he wouldn't. Hadn't called himself that at all. And I guess it's just part of his journey as well. I mean, he's got to be in his 80s now. I think he must be. Yeah,
Wow.
him and his
Yeah.
wife. But I think that's probably part of his journey that he's been on. But he certainly, for us, he was just always Ken Blanchard. He was the boss. With just such a wonderful way of talking to us and working. Mm.
Well, and again, I think this whole journey of coaching, I've got so many questions for you, but the whole journey of coaching really ends up being a spiritual journey because it's very personal to each one of us. And even
Mm.
if we are being coached in business practices and what you're working with, I'm guessing that you get involved with that inner work as well with your clients. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, you do. Sometimes I come out of and I'm going, hang on, am I being a life coach today? Or what am I? Am I a family counselor? You just get, because you wear it all, because it's all part of being in business.
Yeah.
When you are a business owner, you just take everything into your business. And so as a coach, we get it coming back out at us. But it's a privilege to be working with these people and just showing them that, let's use your energy in a different dynamic so that you're not feeling like this.
Yeah, and I'm looking back over what we've just talked about and your life, and I'm thinking, well, when did you actually become a coach? Was it when you were in your 60s, or was it before, or was it more of a gradual transition? When did you start considering yourself a coach? And when did you
It's
actually start your own business being a coach?
good. Probably, if I look back on that timeline, I've probably been a coach right back. When I was marching and I was the leader, when I was working in the library and I had the team, when I was at the play centre and I was working with all those women, when I was at the Chamber of Commerce. So have probably always been that coach, but without realizing that that's what I was doing. And it wasn't until someone approached me and said, it was Results in Business. We would like you to join Results in Business and become a coach. And I went, oh, I quite like that idea. And so that's what, because I'm not one to think about it. My husband, bless him, he would take 3 or 4 days. I went, no, okay, let's do that. So away I went. And became a qualified coach. And it was just a natural thing for me to do. And it's all I know how to do. If I look back, that's all I've ever done, in a funny sort of a way. Yeah.
And I think energy has a lot to do with that. And what I mean is that when you recognize that you're doing what you love, your energy just seems to come up like in our case here, the old, what is it called in Yellowstone National Park? There's that geyser, Old
Yes,
Faithful.
yes, yes, yes. Oh, faith, yes.
Yeah, that when you've really been able to find what you love and you really are in that groove, so to speak, and you look back on your life and you go, oh my God, this is what it's all been about, is
Yes.
doing this. And it's really what I've been doing all along. There's suddenly this surge of energy that you feel, this sense of, at least for me, of euphoria,
Mm.
wow, it
Yeah.
all does make sense now. Would you agree with that? What do you?
Yeah, totally agree. It's something I've pondered on. In fact, I did try and do something else when we came back from Australia. I thought, oh, I'm so tired of running my own business. I'll go and get a job. Well, I got a job at a bank, and I lasted a week because I was too busy trying to tell the bank manager how to run the bank. I went, think I'll go back to running my own business. because it was alien to me to be doing something that wasn't coaching. Standing behind a till just didn't, and the bank just didn't work for me. And we still laugh about that.
Yeah.
So it is. All of a
Okay,
sudden you go,
for all of our listening audience, I mean, we've been through a lot. We've been kind of through your timeline. What would you say to the women in particular? But if there's men listening, I don't want to leave you out either. What would you say for those who are listening to this and going, yeah, that's great for you, but how does that relate to me? Number one, and number two, how would you inspire those women to really start digging? That's one of the reasons that I brought up this idea of the timeline that you did, because I think that's a really valuable exercise. But beyond that, what little tip could you give the audience? What could you share with the audience that is going to help them understand how to take that first step, if it is their first step, in recognizing where they can find that passion in life and start expressing it? I mean, that's a big question to answer
it
on
is. Yeah. It's all
short
good.
form, but what would you suggest? It's
Look,
probably what you could spend a year on coaching, right? But
it is. Um, yeah, first of all, do that. Even if you're 20 or 30, do your decades, do your little timeline therapy, and just see what pops out of there. You might be surprised what goes. Well, I did this when I was 10, and hey, look, hang on, I'm still, but I'm at a different level here. But I tend to say to people, in yourself, you know what the passion is. You know what lights you up. You know how if you want to run a business, or perhaps you're really good at cooking, or perhaps you're good at sewing, or perhaps you're good at knitting, or perhaps you're good at something totally different. Um, Follow whatever it is that lights you up, because when you start following whatever it is that lights you up, you will find that you will start growing, and never consider it. People say to me, oh, it's just a hobby, and I'm going, really? Hang on. How long have you been doing for? What do you love about it? And when we start unpacking this hobby, we suddenly find that actually this is a business that I have. I can do something with this, and as they say, there might be five, it could be yoga. We've got yoga teachers all over the place, but you bring something different to that yoga teacher over here. So if it's something that sits inside you, and I always follow my gut. If my gut says, no, I don't do it, I'm going, oh, okay, leave it alone. But if it goes, run with it, I'll go. Because I know that that's inside of me telling me to do something. So if there is something out there.
I'm going to take a case in point. So how on earth and when did you start powerlifting? And what
Oh,
if your gut? What if your gut told you, oh, go over there and work this way?
It actually started off when I was 50, and I had what I call my midlife crisis. I was overweight. I was tired. I didn't like the way I looked. And I was talking to people. I was out talking to people. And I went, you've got to do something about this. So I went to, was a little like a weight loss company here called Jenny Craig. And my coach there was a bodybuilder. She was New Zealand's international bodybuilder. And she said to me, Heather, you've got to start going to the gym. And I'm going, not unless there's something to aim for, because that's typical of me. She said, oh, well, why don't you compete in bodybuilding in the Masters? And I went, okay, why not? So it started back in my 50s. So I competed, I competed for 3 or 4 years, and said I'd never get back into the gym again because it was full on, I have to say. Then took up triathlons and running and all that, and biking and those sorts of things. And still actually did one this year, which was part of that photo that you showed. And then I decided to get back into triathlons at 70. And my coach said to me, why don't you take up powerlifting? And of course, typical of me, went, oh, okay, I can do that. And I love it. I just so love it. So if it just somehow it was right for me to do it. And when people say, who know me, they go, we're not surprised, because that's what you do. It has been part of it. That weight training has been part of you for so long. Even though I gave it up for 20 years, it's still part of me. And it was just easy to go back to it. Mm.
Interesting. That's really interesting. And triathlons to boot. In fact, putting this picture back up,
Yeah.
is that picture on the left for the viewing? I don't know. Is it on the right or left?
It's on my right. Yes, yep, yep. So my granddaughter said to me, she was 11, Nonny, we're going to enter in the triathlon. And I went, oh, okay, are we? All right. I'm thinking, oh, Lord, here we go. And so it was a family triathlon. My daughter-in-law, my granddaughter, and myself entered in the triathlon. And then at the end of it, I discovered I was the oldest woman on the field. Well, I didn't even think
Really?
about it. Yeah.
How old
Hence the
were
two
you at
hours.
the time? How
It
old were
was
you?
only this year. It was this year. So I'm 74 because I'm
Oh,
75 next week. So we're
wow.
74. Mm.
And this is something I also have to say is that, even you say 75 and I go, wow, well, I'm not far behind you. I'm 71. And here Ken Blanchard is in his 80s.
Mm.
And again, this morning I was looking through various social posts and I saw one of a woman who was 81 who is doing phenomenal things. There really is nothing in life that's too late to try. You know,
No.
I mean, I like to bicycle. I've also been a swimmer.
Yeah.
And I used to run when I was younger. I used to run Beta Breakers up in San Francisco. And that was just kind of a laugh because it was all about having fun and
Yes.
wearing silly
Yeah.
costumes. But we did it,
Mm.
and I'm thinking, I'm going to start. I think I've got to set myself a goal. And I just have to decide. There was uh, again on social, everything's on social these days. Um, a post about running for cancer, or no, bicycling for cancer in September. And I thought, yeah, there's a part of me that would, in fact, I started to sign up for it. But then I thought, I'm going to do this, but I've got to do it on my own time. And but at the same time, I think setting that goal for yourself, and you talk about goals in your coaching, which is interesting. I want to get to that too. But you set a goal for yourself. Sometimes it's nice to have that extra accountability, so to speak, of, yeah, I got to do this because I signed up to bicycle for cancer.
Yes.
Um, so it's just a matter of doing it, really. But again, I've run into so many people, and in my own coaching business, where not everybody thinks like we do, Heather.
No, 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 they don't. And to me, age is just a number. I don't even think about it. Age is just a number. I do what I want to do, which feels right for me. And I don't even think about how old I am. I just know that it might take me a bit longer or it might hurt a bit more. That's okay. The body does adjust. And it's just something that I want to do. And I never think about the age. If this is what I want to do, it's the mindset certainly kicks in because, as you know, the old mind will go. It's a bit like if you decide you're going to walk down the middle of the road, and the mind goes, "This is not very safe for you. Get back on the footpath." So when I decide to do the triathlon, I can hear my mind saying, "That's a stupid idea. Get back in the car." And, and so you have to overcome this self chatter, this constant self chatter that we women are very good at. We really are so good at it, but it's just our mind protecting ourselves, of course. I go, oh, just go away, leave me alone. I know what I'm doing. So I self chatter, reverse it if you like. I just tell it to go away. I'm doing what I'm doing, and just get out of it.
Get
But I
out
have
of my way. Get
to get
out
out
of
of my
my
way.
way. I'm the chief energy architect of my business. Get out of
Yeah.
my
No way. And Gary will sometimes say to me, who are you talking to? And I'm going, it's all right. Just telling my stupid mind to get out of the way because I'm going to do this.
way.
Yeah.
Well, what I was going to mention about goals is when I was reading the information that you sent me, you mentioned setting goals for your clients, which
Mm.
is interesting to me because I've always thought of you getting the client the person to figure out what goals they want to accomplish. So was I wrong when I was reading that? And if you do set goals for your clients, what do you mean by that?
Okay, and sometimes I don't even tell them. So no, the clients will come along and we're working, and I'm thinking, by the end of next year, this client could be here, or by the end of next year, we could be entering this client into the business awards. I don't tell them that, or sometimes I do share it with them, but not very often. That's my own personal goal for them, because I can see if we've been working together for 3 or 6 months, where they could eventually be. And although they're working through their personal goals and they're on the journey, and this is where we're taking the business, I have a bigger goal for them up here. And if I find that they're starting to struggle, I'll say to them, now, look, I'm just going to share this with you. This is where I think you could be. This is my personal goal for you. Do you want to join me on the journey to get there? And so so it's a personal goal. For example, I've got a client at the moment, and I did say to him, he was really struggling. And I said to him, look, I have a goal for you. My goal for you, personal goal for you, because I think you can do it, is to enter the local business awards next April. And he looked at me and said, really? Can I do that? And I'm going, yes, you can. Should we do this together? So take your goals, and this is our high level goal now. And we're going to work our way through up the ladder, and you'll be in the business awards next year. It's something he'd never thought about, of course, because that was my personal goal, because I knew he could do it. So although they have their business goals and we put the planning into place, I have another goal.
That's really interesting. And
keeps
not only
as well.
I'm sorry.
It keeps me as well, because I've got this goal up here. So it gives me my goal to make sure that we're working through all of theirs to get them to my goal.
Well, that brings up the fact that to some degree, Heather, you are a self-competitive person. You really you set certain expectations for yourself, and like the word, you expect to exceed what you've set for yourself.
Yes.
And again, not all of us are like that. So what kinds of clues or what kind of tips could you give people that aren't self-competitive to get started?
Just set that, just get a goal, whatever it might be, and just take it up a notch, just one notch, not way up here. It's just one notch. And going, well, I'm going to start my business, whatever it might be, for example, in 3 months' time. I would say to you, and set another little goal. I'm going to start my business in 3 months' time, and this is how many clients I'm going to have in 4 months' time. So just keep setting those little steps up, and you will find that after being in business a year, of course, then you have to reflect and go back and go, I'm going to do better this year. So all of a sudden you find you are being competitive. You're being competitive with last year's figures.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Well, you are a delightful person. I love there was one thing more I have to ask you. You said something about your ultimate goal in life. Your ultimate goal in life is to make yourself redundant. What does that mean?
So when, if a client comes to me, I should be able to, in a year or 6 months, or depending on what it is, say to them, look, you don't need me anymore. You've learned everything you need to know to be able to go away and run your business very successfully now. So as a coach, I don't expect to be with them forever, although I have got a couple of clients I've been with them for 15, 16 years.
Wow.
But it's my goal to make myself redundant so that they don't need me. They understand where their business is going. They can ask themselves those hard questions. And then I just become there to support them. So, for example, I've got a client that he might ring me up every 3 or 4 months and say, can we have a chat? Oh, that's fine. I worked with him for 3 or 4 years, and now it's just a case of I'm okay. So I sort of slowly let them go. And so they feel safe and confident in what they're doing. They understand business. They understand their figures. They've got their support team, their staff around them. And so I make myself redundant, literally.
I see
And I
what you're saying.
slowly, yeah, I
That makes
slowly back
sense
out
then.
of their
But you're going to
business.
be coaching until you're ready to be laid out.
I think so. I'll probably even coach them how to do that, Robin. Now, look here, you lot. So,
That's
yeah,
really
it's
funny.
just, it's who I am.
That's I want to share one more thing too with people. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this. I want to share my screen of your website. Let's see, here it is. And the reason I want to do this, okay, well, here, first of all, I love your logo. And when did you decide to do this hair? I love it. I love it.
It was my hairdresser, actually. I've always said, you know what you're doing. You know your job. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just the piece of paper you're going to put your artwork on. And so it was her idea because I had red glasses. And so it's just gone from there. And then, of course, now I think if I change my glasses, I've got to change the color of my hair. I go, oh, well, all right. I might be purple next time. Who knows?
So did
So
it
it was
start with your logo, or did your logo get inspired by your hair
the logo
or
got
your glasses?
inspired by the hair and the glasses. Yeah, my creative logo person just came up with it. And I went, I so love that. Yeah. So it is who I
Yeah,
am. It's what I'm
yeah,
about. Yeah,
it's
it's what
wonderful.
I'm recognized. My husband
I
always
love
says to
it.
me, when you're in the crowd, I can find you because I just look for the red hair.
It's true. In a crowd, you'd be easy to pick out. You never want to
Yeah,
do anything illegal.
no.
They'll always.
Yeah.
Um, so this was an interesting quadrant that I just quickly want to go over. I think it's
Okay.
interesting. We're talking about energy management, which is your field, about managing your energy, not your time.
Mm.
Tell us a little bit about this quadrant.
Can't see it, Robin. Which quadrant are you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all
Um,
right.
I hope
I
you
think
can. Is that not showing up on the screen? Darn it.
no, no. It's all good.
Okay, there it is. I have to add it to the. Okay, now it
There we
is.
go. Now you've got it. All righty.
And then I ought to scroll down and show people your logo and stuff. I thought you could see it at this point. So yeah, isn't that wonderful that and the red hair. So okay.
Yes.
So no, I
Yes.
wanted to show people this quadrant.
Are you able to make that quadrant bigger?
I wish
Is
I
it
could, but
okay?
I can't.
It's all good. It's all good. It's just it's a little bit blurry. So that
Yeah.
really is taking us. That quadrant takes us through the different energies that we have. You know, we have exhausted energy. So what is exhausted energy? Is this how I'm feeling? I'm just trying to remember what's in the rest of the quadrant. To be honest, we've got. Oh, there we
There we
go.
go.
Good girl.
I was able to do it after all. I just had to get,
Look at
yeah.
that. Excellent. So our exhausted energy, you know, we're drained, we're fatigued, and we all feel like this. You know, sometimes we get up in the morning, we go, oh, we can't do this. Or perhaps we've pushed through our energy levels because we all work with our ultradian rhythms, which is our peaks and our dips. We all do that. A standard 9 to 5 job is just, we don't work like that at all. That's crazy. So you will know that we have highs and lows. So if you're feeling exhausted and you're drained, that tells me that you're not working with your energy at all. You're pushing through your day, and you're probably making mistakes and just feeling exhausted and too exhausted to do anything about it. Our next one is what I call empty energy, where you're struggling, you're incapable, you're deficient, you're failing, and so that's how you're feeling. You just don't have anything left inside you. It's all gone, and you're just going, why am I here? What am I doing this for? What's the purpose of this? So those are the real negative energy levels that if you're not using and working with your energy rhythms right, that's how you will feel. And on the other side is our positive, our efficient energy, where you're intentional, you know what you're doing, you're focused, you're onto it, your energy will last a bit longer. and it's sustainable. You can work through the day because you are working with your energy levels. And the top one up there, that effortless, is just where you're in flow. Everything's pumping. You're feeling good. You're optimistic. You're invigorated, and you're just plowing through your work because you're working with your rhythms. You're working with your peaks. You're taking time out when you have the dips. You're walking away from your computer. You're throwing your phone in the drawer. You're not looking at it. The negative is where your energy is depleted. The positive is where you have so much energy and, you've really looked after, you're sleeping well, you're taking care of your emotional energy, your physical energy, your mental energy, your spiritual energy. So that's how we need to be working with our days. And a lot of people don't, of course. Time management's a myth. You cannot control time, but you can recharge your energy. So,
Yeah,
Robert,
and what makes sense to me too is that this upper right quadrant where you're high and effective is what uh, athletes would call being in the flow,
yes,
right?
yes,
That
yeah,
you are, and it's also what we were talking about at the very beginning of this discussion of when you just have so much energy because you've identified what you want to do. You've got this vision of accomplishing it. You are in the flow, and you are just full of what seemed like the old faithful that I was referring to.
yes,
That burst of energy. But then,
yes,
like you say, as our physical bodies have to calm down after some point, the adrenaline and everything else that's flowing in there, the endorphins and all of that brings us back down, but we still are motivated. We still have the vision. We still have the interest, and we're down. So our energy is dropped a little bit, but we're still on the high side of the equation. So we're still intentional. We still have the intent of getting there. And I think that's important for people to remember that I don't know if anyone can really be in that top right-hand quadrant 24/7. I think
no,
it's a
you
little
can't.
bit, the goal is, first of all, get on the right side of the high-low axis.
Yes,
Get on
yeah,
the right side. And then once you're on that right side, listen to your body, rest when you need to rest, and take advantage of the ups and downs. For me personally, I think when you're in that lower right quadrant, that that's when you can sit in front of the computer maybe and get some thinking done, or do a little bit of relationship building, or other things. And when you're in that really high one, you've identified activities in your business that require that burst of energy, that
yeah.
require getting over that finish line. And maybe it's managing the team and other things. I don't know. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, yeah, and that's exactly right. We all of us, you're either a morning lark or a night owl, and that's how you work. For example, I'm up early in the morning, 5 o'clock. I am pumping. My energy and my brain is going nonstop. I have to write stuff down because I'll forget it. And so I'll be on 90 minutes, and then I can feel the slide coming down, and so I'll have a 20-minute break. I'll get up, I'll walk away. I might go for a walk outside, round the house. I don't look at the computer. I don't go on my phone, because your brain then is switching from working to, oh my goodness, now I'm over here. And we want this brain and our body to rest. So some people work in 60-minute flows and might just have a 15-minute. Some people work in the Pomodoro, which is the 25 and 5 break. But whatever you're doing, you need to at least every 45 minutes get up, stand up for 5 minutes, stretch, just give yourself, your body a bit of a rest, and then come back to work. But my mornings is my most productive. So I'll probably have it finish work at about 11:30, and I might have an hour and a half. I'll go to the gym, go for a swim. I might read a book. I love knitting, but I'm taking a complete break, ready for me to recharge and come back in the afternoon. But I tell you what, I'm done by 2:30. I'm out of here. because I've been going.
Ah,
And so, yeah, so then, in the afternoon, I'll just take care of emails, or I'll go have coffee with girlfriends or network or whatever it is. Whereas some people are night owls, and you will know them, they actually don't want to start work till about 11 o'clock. So if you've got those people at work, they'll wander into work and they'll annoy the rest of you, and they'll have a coffee and they'll fiddle around at the desk, do their emails. But probably from 11 o'clock onwards, they will be on fire and they will work well into the night. So you're a morning lark or a night owl. And the best time to have meetings is probably around about 11 o'clock, because that's when your morning lark's still on the high, and that's when your night owls are starting to come up. Don't try and have a meeting in the morning, because your night owls are going, oh, get lost, I'm not going to listen to this. And they're the ones nodding off in the background. So we all work with our energy.
wow. That's really a tremendous insight, I think. And one that is so great in working with teams of people is to recognize, instead of fighting them on what their cycle is, to work with it, within it,
Yeah.
and keep them, and keep your team on the right side of that axis.
And it's so hard, since COVID, of course, we've got so many different ways of working now. It is hard for managers, for sure, because you've got some at home, some virtual, some in the office. But if you can understand, first of all, what your own rhythms are, your own ultradian rhythms are, and then you get your team to work, and then you can start planning your projects around, the different rhythms, and you will achieve more. You will become more productive, actually. And your team go home at night time, and they've got the energy to play with the family or go out with friends. They're not just going to collapse in front of the television because they're exhausted. So if you work with your team and you work with your rhythms, you have a whole different outcome.
Well, that makes so much sense. Well, we're coming up to the hour. I want to thank you very much. Boy, I can't believe that it's been an hour already. It's gone so fast for me. I've loved talking with you. I think you are not only fun, Heather, I think that you are just full of experience naturally, but also that vision, that creative visionary that you are, and that what you have to offer to the business world is wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And I wish you I wish you total redundancy.
Thank you, Robert. And remember now, when you become that digital nomad, you just digital nomad your way to New Zealand.
I
And we'll have some
absolutely
fun.
will. You'll be the first person I reach out to give a hug. I really have enjoyed this a lot. Thank you so much, Heather. Is there anything that you'd like to add before we close?
No, no, not really. I think we've covered it all. It's, for me, it's just making, one of my missions is to make everybody, or the women of the world, aware that they do have other options of a way of working. You work with your energy. If you can work with your energy, you will change the way that you live, change the way that your family live. You will change the way of your work environment. So
Yeah.
understand your rhythms, start working with your rhythms, and just remember you are a wonderful person, and you go and do what you want to do for you, because whatever it is that you want to do for you, the rest of the world needs it too.
Oh, I think that's a wonderful message to close on. That just remember, whatever it is that you're passionate about, the rest of the world wants it too. And they need you to do it. We
Mm,
need you to do it. And that is what the legacy is to find
right.
that passion, to follow it, to express it. And that's how people remember you. I mentioned,
It is. Yeah.
yeah, Maya Angelou has a beautiful quote that says, will remember, I'm sorry, people will not remember what you said.
Mm,
People will not remember what you did, but people will always remember how you made them feel.
mm.
And I think
It's so right.
yeah, I think that's what everyone needs to remember when they're going through a period in life where they just are confused and lost, to start remembering, purpose on this earth, and it's very unique to me, and all I need to do is figure it out. And I think one of the ways that you can figure it out is that initial timeline, that decade, go decade by decade and find out why you are where you are and what is the common thread that makes you so unique.
Yeah. And you might be very surprised once you look at it. Yeah. And then go out and get yourself on stages, get invited to speak to people, get invited public speaking or training or coaching, whatever it is. But once you've worked it out, then start sharing your message out to the world, because we need you.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Thank you again so much, Heather. I love it. And I can't wait to get to New Zealand.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you for having me.
Together.
I've enjoyed it so much. It's been fun.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye.